Chapter 17. Well, the bail guards were smiling down on me because Tom was denied bail. I was so thrilled. I longed to call Bear and share the good news with him, but I couldn't. I had no way of contacting Bear. He was away on assignment with no return date. So instead, I grew out my hair. No more bobs for me. It was back to my tumbling tresses. When I visited Tom in prison, I consulted his playbook again and ensured that my crocodile tears flowed. "Oh, Tom, how do I manage this? I'm so scared of living without you, Tom." "Irina, stop being so melodramatic. This will all be over soon. Okay, I'm asking for a speedy trial because I am being framed, okay? I am being framed. And I will be acquitted. I know that for a fact. It's the dumb cops. They're framing me for some reason. Yeah, or maybe Lanita. She probably wants to sue me in civil court, get some money out of me. Greedy fucking bitch. He didn't suspect me? Was I that dumb to him, that insignificant? Evidently, I was. So, what if they got on you that they could arrest you and deny you bail, Tom? My cell phone. It was used to call Quibber several times at night, since it pinged at his cell towers. They claim I was in his area. That's it? No, Quibus was shot 4 times with a revolver which they found in my Porsche. Anything else? My phone log. Apparently, it's deleted. The entire history deleted. I didn't do that. The police, they did that. They must have. They're framing me. Why would I delete my entire call history, huh? I shook my head from side to side and mumbled about how little sense it made. Lanita. She must have broken into our house. She stole my stuff, then used it to frame me. It was her. Right. See, I should have kept those cameras rolling. It's all your fault. You wanted them off. I should have kept them rolling. You wanted them off. Your fault. Yeah, you're right, Tom. You should have kept them rolling. Yeah, sorry. So Tom, your Rolex? I don't know how it was found in Quibus's house. I didn't drop it there. I looked down. Irina, look at me. I want you to listen, and I want you to listen good, okay? I did not kill Quibus. I did not kill Quibus. I stared silently at Tom. Seriously, Irina, I am innocent. I know this jail is full of people who say, I'm innocent, I didn't do it. But, Irina, I am innocent. So, he flashed a palm at me. Don't say it, don't think it. Whatever you're thinking, you've dreamed it, understand? It was all a dream, that's all. I'm 100% sure of it. Since all our conversations were recorded, Tom watched his words carefully. Sure, of course, Tom, sure. Tom leaned in and whispered, Did you do what Ian Sanders asked you to do? Don't say it out loud, just nod. Did you? Just nod. He was talking about me erasing the incriminating tapes of me telling him that he had left the house that night. Mindful of every conversation being recorded, he watched his words. So did I. You mean the tapes? Don't say it, Irina. What's wrong with you, man? Sorry. Did you? Yes. They've been erased. Stop saying it, Irina. Man, you're so thick. Seriously? Sorry. Tom exhaled loudly, then said, You have proof? Of what? What we're talking about, Irina. Oh, Oh, yeah, I got a reference number when I erased it. I mean, when I did, you know what. Tom tilted his head and narrowed his eyes at me. Tell me, the proof, tell me. Oh, reference number 20214 for the deletion. Yes, in order for me to delete Holmes' surveillance footage, the one that could add to his charges, I would need a password, and after deleting, I would get a reference number. Tom knew that, hence his cryptic quizzing. He gave a giant nod, appearing relieved despite me being thick and frustrating to him. As I drove home, I fantasized about the day when he would get his gigantic revelation. It was his stupid doormat of a wife who had framed him. She grew a spine and with the help of her lover fought back, got his ass thrown in jail. Oh, and she knew exactly what gaslighting meant. While I was busy selling off all our assets, I visited Tom in prison regularly. But I did not take Warren to visit him. He did not deserve a visit from Warren, and Tom didn't quiz me about Warren at all. He was solely interested in me being his alibi. Over time, prison took its toll on Tom. He lost weight, developed psoriasis, so his skin was dry and scaly, his face blotchy. He became increasingly depressed too. I can't do this anymore, he once told me, his eyes filled with tears. I'll end it all if I have to stay here. Tom, don't talk like that. You'll be home soon. I just know it. Arena, you don't understand. I feel like I'm trapped in a nightmare. I don't get it. He forgot that I had been in his shoes thanks to his careful engineering. His vengeful engineering. He had lost sight of that. Self-absorbed bastard. I get it, Tom. I do. I can't wait for all this to be over. Me too, Tom, me too. I meant it. I just wanted to be free of Tom, and this was an avenue. I needed it all to come to fruition. But not before I disposed of all our assets. To cheer up my soon-to-be ex-husband further, I said, soon you'll be home, sleeping in your own bed, and we will have that threesome. I followed my pep talk with a lascivious wink. Tom scowled at me. Is that all you can think about, Arena? Threesomes? What is wrong with you? Well, yeah, my pep talk turned out to be an epic fail. Damn. Months later, while Tom remained in prison preparing for his trial, the court granted me full custody of Warren. I was so thrilled, I cried for a solid hour. Tom would never be able to take Warren away from me again. I would make sure of that. That same afternoon, I got a buyer for Tom's business, as well as for our commercial property. Those sales netted me more than $6 million. And that, by the way, that excluded our 3 residential properties. I decided that even if Tom was declared not guilty by the courts, and if he decided to come after me, I would take Warren and the money and flee the country, disappear. With little or no money, Tom would find it really hard to locate me. To celebrate my victory, I decided to take Warren to an open-air twilight concert in the park for families. Song and her friends were going to be there, so I thought it would be fun. There would be food stalls, alcoholic beverages, and face painting, etc. for the kids. Song's friends greeted me warmly. Hello, tight ass. Yeah, the name stuck. Well, I retaliated by buying them all cocktails. Hey, I was a multimillionaire, so I could treat them all. "Thank you, tight ass," they chorused. "You're most welcome," I said. As I stood and watched families together, I thought about my baby Sasha. She would have been running around loving the children and the beautiful noise. A sense of sadness pervaded my soul. I had to shake my head really hard to prevent myself from sobbing. My therapist had suggested that I try to postpone grief at times like these so that I am present for Warren, so that I don't deprive Warren of a mother who is whole by always being sad and melancholy. So after taking a deep breath and exhaling loudly, I decided to think about Bear. What I would give to see him again. Wow, to hold him, to kiss him, to feel him. I missed him so much. Then, someone behind me in the voice of a serial killer said, "Hey lady, heard you were giving away free cocktails. Can I get one too?" That voice. I whirled around and looked into Bear's face. "Oh, Bear," I cried, throwing my arms around him. "What are you doing here?" "I ran out of iron clothes," he said, kissing me. "Are you back, Bear, are you?" "Yep." Yes. Bear, hairy, badly dressed and wearing a creased t-shirt, was back. Finally. "I'm never letting you go," I warned. "I don't care what anyone says. I'm never letting you go. You hear?" He smiled. "Ditto, baby." Bear and I kept a low profile for obvious reasons. We met in secret but regularly and waited for the day when we could be together without having to sneak around. Warren was thrilled at Bear's return. And having Amy in our lives again, well, that was the icing on our chocolate fudge cupcake. Life felt beautiful again. Not perfect, no. It could never be perfect again, but still, it was a whole lot better than it was months ago. One morning, there was a knock at the door. I looked through the peephole, and to my surprise, the man driving the beige Peugeot stood outside looking nervous. Probably of Greek origin, he was dressed in black from head to toe, wraparound black glasses and looking like a ninja. I opened the door and said, "Can I help you?" "I want to see Mr. Buerta," he said. "Oh, he is not available." "Where is Mr. Buerta? I have something for him. He's not answering his phone. Where is he?" He waved a yellow envelope at me. "What is it?" "I can only talk to Mr. Buerta." "Well, he's away for a very long time, so..." I shrugged. The man scratched his head, then said, "Look, I need payment for all the work I do." "Well, what's this all about? Who are you?" After a long hesitation, he said, "I'm a private investigator and I've done work for Mr. Buerta." "Oh, well, Mr. Buerta is away indefinitely." "Indefinitely? What does that mean? What are you saying? I'm not getting paid? Where is he?" "In prison." The man's eyes popped. "How much does Mr. Buerta owe you?" The man hesitated, then said, $17,000? I started to shut the door on Ninja. Okay. $4,000 then. I eyed the man, bulging envelope in his hand, and said, "Fine, let me take a look at it first." "No, lady, it's not for your eyes, okay?" "Not for my eyes?" "Of course not. The man was tailing me." "Sorry, lady," he said in an apologetic voice. "Well, I do need to take a look at it, and if it's worth it, I'll cut you a check right now. Or you can wait for payment. You decide." Yeah, I was talking big, but at the end of the day, I would have paid $5,000 to view the contents of that envelope. My gut told me it was important stuff. The man let out a long sigh and shifted around in his shoes. What's he in jail for? Murder. His eyes popped. Who he murdered? Another investigator of his? A long silence befell us. Finally, in a resigned voice, the man said, "Cash." I shrugged. I had plenty of cash that I had stolen from the safe in Tom's office. Tom's password, Payback, the one for his video surveillance cameras, turned out to be the passwords for everything important, including his hidden bank accounts. Clearly he wasn't expecting to go to prison, and clearly he wasn't expecting me to have his password. The man handed me the envelope saying, "I got a family to support, that's all." Sure, I understand. I tore open the envelope and went through it, and as I did, I had to grip the door frame to steady myself. I had expected stuff on me, my whereabouts. But inside the envelope was a full report on Bear. Photos, information about his real name, the schools he attended, his place of work, who he reported to, his vehicles, the most in-depth report I had ever seen. It scared me that Tom had this kind of information on Bear. What was he planning to do with it? What scared me even more was the dossier on Amy. Photos of her at school, at ballet classes, on a jungle gym, in the supermarket with a woman who I assumed was Amy's mother, the car the woman drove, their house. I looked at the photos in absolute horror. "See?" the man said. "I do good work." I looked up at him. "Good work? You were tailing a 5-year-old? Taking photos of her? Really? Is that legal?" Lady, look, and you conducted surveillance on a law enforcement officer. Is that legal?" In a humble voice, the ninja said, "I'm sorry, work is scarce. I gotta take whatever I can get, I'm sorry." Trying to keep a poker face, I went on to hand him some cash, and I added an extra $1,000. He had a family to support, work is scarce. I understood how that felt, despite everything. The moment he left, I called Bear and told him about the envelope. Bear rushed over to look at it. He didn't care about the information Tom had on him, but he was horrified by the photos of Amy's surveillance. For the first time, I saw Bear so shaken he had to take a seat. Tom really was after Bear in a huge way. It was clear to see. My bet was that he planned to do something creatively horrific to Bear. It was a damn good thing that Tom was behind bars, and that's where he belonged for the rest of his life. I eventually sold all 3 residential properties and pocketed another $5 million. I was rich. For someone who had to count pennies to buy food, I was rolling in money, and it felt strange. Illegal too. Anyway, I immediately bought us a property in another suburb, one with high walls to give us the privacy we needed. By us, I mean Warren, Bear, Amy, and myself. Yes, Bear and I struggled to stay apart, so we decided to shack up, quietly. It was bliss, absolute bliss, and I waited for the moment when Bear would arrive home each day. I was so happy. All I needed was my divorce so that Bear and I could get married. Tom's trial began, and I attended every single day, playing the devoted wife to the hilt. Tom was visibly nervous, despite him believing that he was going to be declared not guilty. Don't worry, honey. Soon this will all be over, and before you know it, you'll be back home with us, where you belong, honey. My voice was always soothing, my manner always supportive. Then, the day arrived when I was asked to take the stand. I was ready. In fact, I was so ready, I even had a lawyer of my own, as I worried about the perjury issue. I had made a false statement to the police, remember? In my church mousy clothes, I took the stand. Solomon Whitehead, Tom's barrister, questioned me first. And of course, I was fluent with my answers, causing Solomon to nod, causing Tom to nod too. With perjury in mind, I watched my words carefully. When the prosecution questioned me, to Tom's horror, I melted like ice cream in the sun. Every sentence out of my mouth thereafter was another nail in Tom's cherrywood coffin. Well, no. No, I can't be certain that Tom was with me all night. You're right, but, I think he was. Yeah. My eyes shifted left to the ceiling. I'm 50% sure, I think. Tom looked at me in utter shock, after which he glared at me. Solomon Whitehead looked at me in utter shock, after which he glared at me too. Ian Sanders, he slowly removed his eyeglasses as he watched me flake. Mrs. Botha, may I remind you that there is a strong penalty for perjury? My bottom lip began to tremble as he hurled more questions at me. Yes, Tom did go out that night, yes, but Tom told me I was dreaming, and Tom, he knows stuff, so I believe him. I'm not as smart as Tom. He's a big businessman, you know. He's powerful, successful too. I believe him. The head injury? Oh, that. Oh, he told me he got into a pillow fight with Corbus. And that's why his head was bleeding. He passed out on the bed, and his pillow had blood on it, yeah. But he told me he was kidding me. I don't know. Well, no. It was Tom who put the phone in the fridge, not me. That's a lie, Tom said in a harsh whisper. Yes, Corbus called me, that's right, yes. Yes, he told me that Tom tried to kill him. But I didn't pay any attention to Corbus because I don't believe my husband's a murderer. Yes, Tom told me to block Corbus, and his girlfriend too. Yeah, Tom did send messages to the two of them telling them to stay away from me. He did, yeah. But there's nothing wrong with that. No. My husband did not force me to lie about where he was that night. He asked nicely. He didn't force me. Arena, Tom screamed from across the room. What the hell is wrong with you? I'm sorry, Tom. I told him what you told me to say. But they say they'll send me to prison, Tom. That's why I didn't destroy the tape, honey. What tape? The prosecutor asked. What tape? Solomon Whitehead asked. What tape? The judge asked. Arena, are you fucking stupid? Tom asked. I did not answer Tom's question because I do believe it was a rhetorical question. You lying bitch, Tom screamed. You're a lying bitch. Contain your client, the judge yelled to Ian Sanders. Me? I sobbed into my lacy white handkerchief as my husband hurled abuse after abuse at me. Well, it was Kleenex actually. Double ply with aloe vera for extra softness. But I pretended that it was a white lacy handkerchief like I'd seen them use in Western movies. "He's not a bad man," I sniffed to the jury, "but he has a temper, that's all." "Shut up, shut up, shut up!" Tom screamed as the bailiffs dragged him out of court. "I will get you, Arena. I will kill you. I promise." After Tom was kicked out of the courtroom, I continued with my damning testimony. Ian Sanders shook his head at me, dismay all over his lined face. I was sure he regretted securing me that power of attorney. But that was okay. I planned to give him a hug later on, which would bridge troubled waters between us. Solomon Whitehead glared at me before he redirected. "Mrs. Botha, you paint a picture of your husband being a violent man. Yet, you went back to him?" "No. My husband's not a violent man. I mean, he has a temper here, and it's scary. But he promised me he would change, and like he did change. I mean, I've been with him for a couple of months, and he never hit me or shoved me into the wall or punched me in the stomach. And during that time, he never hit my son once, like he used to. Never threatened to make him sleep on the balcony at night whenever he wet the bed. And no, during that time he's never threatened to kill me, not once. I mean, okay, once, and now. But this was all my fault, because I told the truth, and it made him mad. I looked at the jury. My husband, he really is a changed man. He's a good man. He's just violent at times, but he's a good man. I knew exactly how I sounded, because Bear had schooled me in how to answer and what kind of questions I could face. And I bet Solomon Whitehead regretted asking me all those questions. In fact, I bet he regretted putting me on the stand in the first place. "No further questions," Solomon Whitehead snapped, his lips a thin line. The prosecution was not finished with me. "Where are all these home surveillance tapes, Mrs. Botha?" Well, the judge ordered me to hand over the surveillance tapes, which I was happy to do. You see, when I lived with Tom, I wasn't tech savvy. As I began to work, I had to become tech savvy. So I knew that I could back up the surveillance footage to my laptop as well, which I did. So technically, I did delete the home surveillance footage, hence the reference number. But I had a copy of my very own blackmail tape. Backup tape. Outside the courtroom, Ian Sanders took me aside. "Your testimony was extremely damaging to your husband's case, Mrs. Botha. Is there something I should know?" Ian Sanders was mad at me. How did I know that? Well, did you notice that for the first time, Ian Sanders called me Mrs. Botha? Not sweetie, not darling, not sweetheart. I hesitated before I burst into tears. "Tom, he told me that he killed Quibus, and that if I said anything he'd kill me. I'm finding it really hard to live with Quibus's murder on my conscience, Ian, and maybe that's why I cracked under pressure." "Wait, he told you that he killed Quibus?" "Yeah, but I don't believe he did, Ian. Tom's not a murderer. And if you tell him I told you that, when he comes home, he's going to kill me. He's really going to murder me. First he'll beat the daylights out of me, then he'll murder me, Ian." "Oh, Mrs. Botha, somehow, I don't think he's coming home anytime soon." "What do you mean, Ian?" Ian sighed, shook his head, then started talking fast and furiously, and for a moment I thought I was at an auction. The glove with his DNA on it, the old lady across the street confirming that a black Porsche was parked outside her house around the time of the murder weapon in Tom's house, the phone calls Tom made around the time of the murder, which put him outside Querbus's home, and now your testimony, your inability to alibi him, you calling him violent, those damning tapes. He took off his glasses and rubbed his sunken eyes. What can I do to help, Ian? Tell me. Just tell me. Get on your knees. What? I was appalled. How dare he ask me for sexual favors? He ought to be disbarred. Get on your knees and pray, Mrs. Porter. Oh, okay then. With a nod, and without calling me sweetheart or darling or smacking my ass, he turned and walked away. Sadly, I did not get the opportunity to give him a hug and bridge troubled waters between us. Sadly. Chapter 18. Two weeks later, after only 3 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. I sat in the courtroom with my fingers tightly linked and tucked under my chin, fervently praying to God, and talking to myself at the same time, on the verge of hysteria. Please God, for Sasha's sake, please, let Tom get what he deserves. It's the only way I can make Tom pay for murdering my baby. He's not only my baby's murderer, but he's going to be my son's murderer, and ultimately my murderer too. For God, when a man kills a woman's child, her children, she dies too. It's usually a slow, painful death that she suffers before she usually takes her own life. The only reason I'm alive, God, is because I have another child to consider. So please, God, please, please, please. While I prayed, Tom sat with rounded shoulders, his head bowed. I thought, you must be praying too, praying a lot harder than I was. Then the verdict was read. On the charge of first-degree murder, drumroll please, guilty. Tom's head lolled, his body folding like a 41-year-old pillow. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Thank you, God, thank you." When I opened them again, Tom was staring at me with eyes bright and flaming red, just like the last time. The devil that he was. This time, I wasn't afraid of him and his silent threats. No, I was stronger, in control, and I had a skull-cracking bear in my corner. I deadpanned as I let victory wash over me, after which I shed a few crocodile tears for Tom, pretended to. "Fuck you," Tom mouthed, seeing through my charade. His words added to my sense of victory, making me want to smile. I didn't. I just continued dabbing my eyes with my aloe vera tissues, double ply. Tom was sentenced to 33 years for murdering Querbus. Great, huh? Well, there's more. The firearm theft added another 5 years to his sentence. Intimidation of a witness and obstruction of justice, which was about me, added another 5 years, all to be served consecutively. In total, 43 years, with parole only after 35 years. I could live with that. I could live with the thought of Tom spending a major part of his life in a cage. The injustice of it all? An innocent man was behind bars for a crime he did not commit, framed by his incompetent, inept wife, a dumb, uneducated bitch, a useless thing. She didn't just fight back, she fought dirty. Yeah. When I stepped out of court, I stood aside, closed my eyes and lifted my face to the sun. I pictured my baby Sasha's angelic face, her melodious gurgles, her smile that melted hearts, and a dry sob escaped me. Sasha, my baby, we did it. We made the bad man pay for what he did to you. I got into my car and drove home, to Bear's open arms. We hugged for a while before we cracked open a bottle of champagne. To baby Sasha, Bear said in a solemn voice. To baby Sasha, I said before I embraced my soulmate again, who I was sure would take a grenade for me. Warren was now safe. Bear was now safe. Amy was now safe. I was now safe. Let's go and tell Warren the good news, I murmured, that his father is never coming back. Bear chuckled. I think you're gonna make his day. On hearing the news, Warren said, Never again? Never again, sweetheart. Not even for a visit, Mom? Not even for a visit, baby. You promise, Mom? I do, Warren. I promise you. I do. Warren nodded, looked at the floor for a second, then at Bear. So, what, you gonna be my dad or something? Bear jerked to attention, then said, I'm almost sure I am. I'm just waiting on your mom to propose to me. She's taking so long. I smiled. Warren said, Will I be able to call you Dad then? Like Amy does? After Mum proposes to you? Bear's smile vanished and his eyes became glassy. Champ, you can call me Dad now if you like. I'd love it. Cool, Warren said. Dad? With tears falling into my glass and mingling with my crystal, I watched the two love of my lives hug it out. We were on safari with my family in South Africa, Bear, Amy, Warren and myself, watching two lions with amusement mate, when Bear moved my hair away from my ears and whispered, I want to do that too. I said, okay, why don't we run it by the ranger first? See if we can get the lion's permission for you to mate with one of them. He laughed, then took me into a playful headlock. Smart ass you. Well, at least you're not calling me a tight ass. Bear leaned back and smiled at me. What? Will you marry me? He was being flippant. I knew he was. So in a sassy voice I said, Honey, if you want to marry me, I expect a ring and a proper like this, smartass. Bear whipped out a box from his pocket and produced a beautiful ring. Oh my God, Bear. I lunged to hug him. Yes, I will marry you, yes. Oh my God, I love the ring, it's so beautiful. How long have you had it? Let's get married right away, Bear. How long have you had the ring? Why didn't you tell me? Let's get married today, now. Let's get married, Bear, in front of my family. 2 days later, in the presence of our kids, my family members, the staff of the game lodge we were staying in, and under a molasses sky, I became Mrs. Arena Shaw. When I returned to Sydney, I had several messages from Ian Saunders telling me that Tom desperately needed to see me regarding our divorce settlement. At first, I ignored the messages. But after a conversation with my lawyer, it was decided that it would be best to see Tom and offer him a settlement amount of 10% of all the monies he had declared. All hidden assets and monies had been confiscated. By me, of course, using the password Payback. On a dreary day darkened by grey clouds, I dressed as if I was going on a date to torture Tom, of course, got into my car and drove to Tom's prison. To my absolute delight, he sported a black eye and some serious bruising on his face. He looked thin, small and pale. He no longer looked like a man who took part in triathlons and won, who ran 10 kilometers most days. Tom greeted me warmly. "You look like the whore you are." I thought to myself, for as long as I could remember, I had to hold my tongue, for fear Tom would hurt Warren. Now he was behind bars, and he couldn't hurt me or Warren. So, I had the urge to speak my mind, tell him everything I wanted to, call him names, knowing that he could not retaliate. Unleash years' worth of thoughts withheld. So I succumbed to my urges and said, "Honey, you look like shit, banged up, like a prisoner without hope. Hey, have you been having sex here, cheating on me?" Well, for some reason Tom was not amused. Silly me. I forgot I'm no longer your wife. I lifted up my hand and flashed him my wedding ring. I'm now married to the dirty wolf. Like it? It's a solitaire. I leaned forward and dropped my voice. "Sorry, but I didn't like the baguette you gave me. It looked too vulgar. Like I was trying to impress, trying too hard. I sold it and bought my dirty wolf a jet ski. Actually, I bought 4 jet skis for Bear, myself, Warren and Amy. You know Amy, right? You had her tailed. You had a 5-year-old tailed. Hey, is that legal? Oh, and by the way, what's a penalty for having a law enforcement officer investigated? Tailed. Tom glared at me. Oh, and I paid that private investigator you hired to spy on Bear and his 5-year-old, so you owe me $4,000. But I'm happy to accept an IOU, since you have no money at all. I smiled. Yeah, I know, I'm generous to a fault, aren't I? Tom continued to glare at me. I wasn't sure why he was not responding to my barbs and insults. What? Cat got your tongue, Thumbelina? With his eyes turning to slits, he said, "It was you." Just 3 words, "It was you." But I knew exactly what he meant. What do you mean, Thumbelina? I know it was you. His voice was low and controlled but angry. Now I was aware that conversations were being recorded in prison, so of course I was careful as to how I responded. What you mean, Tom? Why are you speaking in tongues? I winked at him. Hey, you know what? I'm thinking you should try green concealer. Damn. I would have brought you some had I known that someone was tearing you a new one. Sorry, a picture of you and the tearer of your new one just flashed before my eyes. And I know why you did it, Tom continued, ignoring my jibes. That night, he was in my bed fucking you. wasn't a dream. He was there, naked and in my bed. He punched me on the head. It was him, while I was in bed. As Tom spoke, his eyes bulged and his voice turned into a rabid snarl. My bed! Oh boy, now you sound like one of the bears from Goldilocks, Tom. Belina? Tom began to gnash his teeth. It was your imagination, Tom, really, all your imagination. But do tell me, Tom, Belina, how did this dream, this imagination of yours make you feel when you saw me and my lover disrespecting you in such an atrocious manner? With a murderous look on his face, he said, He helped you. You aren't smart enough to pull off something so huge on your own. You had help. He killed Quibus and planted all that shit in my house. The video surveillance, your gaslighting, my phone in the fridge was all you. Tom, are you taking any medication here? You turned all our friends against me, you did. You drugged me, then you painted me out to be a drunk at the dinner table. You drugged me, you did. Quietly, you worked. He nodded as he rattled off all my transgressions. But Tom, you told me about the tapes just as the police arrived to arrest me, giving me no time to delete them myself. You turned the surveillance tapes on solely to trap me. You set me up, played me, put me here. A smile, slight but smug, played on my lips as I savored my victory. Tom had finally come to terms with the fact that I was behind his framing and it was eating him up. I had checkmated him in a huge way. How humiliating. I had fantasized about that, remember? Victory to me. I leaned in and said, You mean I engineered all of this? He nodded. But you had help. He helped you, that dirty wolf. But Tom, he couldn't have helped me. Why not? 'Cause Thumbelina, he's a cop, remember? They're all really dumb according to you. You can outsmart anyone, remember? You bragged about it in the hot tub. Oh, I wasn't bragging. Tom, you're so smart. I mean, Quibus, he told me that you beat a lie detector test with antiperspirant and Valium. Told me that you could fool anyone and get away with it. Quibus is talking shit. That never happened. Oh, well, Quibus, he rambled on about how you lent him your identity to fly out of the country and set up a paper trail for you so that you could remain behind and commit some crime. Something like that. Tom slammed back in his seat and blinked at me, shock and surprise in his eyes. As if I had just confirmed his suspicions. Quibus had confessed to me after all. Oh, and you kept all this away from me? I shrugged. You know, Thumbelina, poker players, they don't reveal all their cards. Don't you know how to play the game? I'm beginning to think I may have to teach you. As I spoke, Tom continued nodding, as if pieces of the puzzle were falling into place. If I did it, then Thumbelina, I would be way smarter, way craftier than you to put you here, right? And you'd be nothing short of, well, average, less than. Huh? I mean, a dumb, uneducated bitch, a useless thing. Your words? Beat the crap out of you? That would make her smart, way smarter than you. And that would make you, well, pathetic, right? Fuck you, bitch. Here's a tip for you, Thumbelina, and I'm giving this tip to you free of charge because I know you and because I know you don't have money. Loud and boastful people are usually the dumb ones. Beware of the quiet ones. You know, the dumb, uneducated bitches, the useless things. Beware of them, Thumbelina. They know more than they let on, Tom, and it suits them that you underestimate them. I smiled. And remember this, Thumbelina. A wise woman once said, "The lion and the tiger may be more powerful, but the wolf never performs in the circus." Slowly, he ran his hand through his hair, muttering, "You! I can't believe it, you!" Sometimes people think they were evil geniuses, Thumbelina, but most of the time, they aren't evil geniuses, they're just evil. Like you, Thumbelina. Stop calling me that! Oh my God, you're losing your hair, Thumbelina. Going bald. Stop calling me that. Does Medicare cover hair implants? I was having immense fun, but what Tom said next wiped the grin off my face. He said, "You have your fun. I've had mine watching you break. Bit by bit, I witnessed it all, especially when I took away the second child." Highly entertaining, that's what it was. He wriggled his eyebrows at me. His words were crushing. He did watch me break. He did take away my second child. The look on my face must have given me away because Tom suddenly smiled and with renewed vigor leaned in and in an excited voice whispered, "Let me tell you something. Your tears, the look on your face at the police station, priceless. I had to see it for myself, the joy it gave me that day." He sat back and grinned as the knife drove deep in my already wounded heart. I wanted to jump over the solid glass wall and kill him with my bare hands. I wanted to pull the knife out of my heart and use it to stab him over and over again till he was no more, till he lay a bloody, lifeless heap. But it was important that I didn't unravel and that I retook control of the situation. Somehow I managed to fake a smile and say in a blasé voice, "You know what? All water under the bridge. Sasha is in a happy place. Warren is with his new dad. And you, Thumbelina, you're here in a cage with the smell of feces and urine. Yours and other inmates to keep you company for 43 years. Let that sink in. Unless you have your very own bear to your rescue. I doubt it. No one's gonna rescue you, Tom. No one. This is it." I flashed him a smile. "The joy that gives me? Priceless." My words wiped the smile off his face. And I had my follow-up Bob ready. "Oh, and by the way, I've sold all your assets. The houses, the business, the buildings, the cars, the furniture, everything. And I pocketed $11 million. What? They were worth at least 17 to 20 million, Irina. What the fuck's wrong with you? Yeah, I know, Tom. I could have gotten more, but I let it go cheap because Bear and we had plans. So I was eager to cash up and spend like we've hit the jackpot, which We did. It was fun. Unbelievable. I can't believe you gave away everything I worked so hard to get. Well, you know, Thumbelina, I don't have to split with you. So, Bear and I, we get to keep it all. We went on a honeymoon holiday, then got married. It was beautiful, Thumbelina. We swam naked in the sea, and you know what? We fucked in the water, and it was awesome, Thumbelina. We sweated. Despite being in the water, we sweated. You should try it sometimes. I mean, when you get out, in 35 years. Tom's eyes hooded, and his nostrils flared. You're using all my hard-earned money on that bastard? Yeah, I am. But I also sprang for an all-expenses holiday for my mum and siblings. They were so happy to see me and Warren, and they got on so well with Bear. They loved him. They called him smart. They never called you that, did they? They called you a cheap show-off with a huge chip on your skinny shoulders. But I want you to know that every time we open a bottle of Cristal or Moet, or every time we take out a bottle of wine from your cellar, we first drink to you out of respect for you. You know, your money. Then we toast to other things. Oh, and we may be moving away from Sydney forever, so unfortunately, you will never get to see Warren again. I'm going to tell him that you passed away while giving oral sex to a man with 76 tattoos. Tom's breathing became labored. See you in 43 years then, if you survive prison and anal. Such a pretty boy like you will definitely be getting your fair share of admirers here. I bet your dance card is always full, huh? Now, don't forget to thank Pamela Anderson when you're giving blowjob. Remember that video? That's how you must look when you're doing it, Thumbelina. Like you want it, like you want to, like you enjoy it. I pointed 2 fingers at my eyes. You motherfucking whore, he screamed. Oh, and don't forget now, if ever you drop your soap, leave it. That's why they invented soap on a rope. I laughed some more as the guards surrounded us, alerted by his shouting. Enjoy your solitary now. And remember, the key words to success? Pamela Anderson. Then Tom really lost it. I will murder you one day, you fucking cheap slut. One way or another, I'm gonna get you. I'm warning you. Bibles, he screamed as the guards surrounded him. You don't know who you're fucking with. Bye, Thumbelina, and thanks a million for the money. Oh, I mean, thanks 11 million. Much appreciated. You bitch. I will never let go of you. You will always have to look over your shoulders. I'm warning you. Remember your safe word, Thumbelina? Pamela Anderson. I continued laughing as I headed for my car. Tom had probably burst a blood vessel. That's how angry he was. Furious. Good. Good. I wanted him to be furious with me without being able to do anything about it. It was a nice change. Here I was taunting him while he was in a cage. It felt good. Damn good. When I turned on my ignition, that Freedom song by Nicki Minaj, you know, the one Warren and I sang along to when I first escaped Tom? It played on the radio. I rushed to turn it off. Of all time, that song had to play at that moment. You see, freedom had cost me so much that I never wanted to utter that word again. Let's not jinx it, I thought, and drove on in silence. After Sasha died, I stopped listening to music. It just didn't feel right to do so. So I continued my journey in silence. After a while, I thought, no. by turning off the music. It felt as if I was allowing Tom to have the last word. No, I will have the last word. I would focus on the fact that I got my justice. Yeah, I had help, sure, but so had Tom, remember? I had a savage bear, which eventually killed Quibus, Tom's help. As for Tom, well, he had a taste of what it would be like to be mauled by a bear. A mating bear, that is. But he wasn't fortunate enough to have been killed by that bear. Yes, fortunate because his fate was worse than death. A lifetime in chains for a crime he did not commit. Betty wishes he was as fortunate as Quibus. To outsmart Tom and secure justice, I was forced to morph into someone else, one who fought dirty, and I did, to Tom's surprise. There was no other way. It had to be done that way. The icing on top of my dish of justice was the knowledge that Tom would have to live with the thought that he had made a cardinal mistake. He had underestimated me all along. Bad move. I left him blindsided and in a cage for 43 years. Imagine Tom living with that thought day in and day out. It would be like swallowing sand each time he thought about me and my lover and our collusion, my epic betrayal, his failure to outsmart me. His failure to outsmart Bear, a dumb cop, a dirty wolf. That would be akin to me having the last word, right? Right. With a nod, I turned on another radio station, one that played doof-doof music, cranked up the volume, wound down my window and allowed the wind to blow out my hair. Life was going to be beautiful. No matter what, I would make sure that it was for the ones that I loved. Life was going to be beautiful. This is the end of Payback, a crime thriller by Eve Rabi. To listen to more of Eve Rabi's audio works on YouTube, please like this post and subscribe. Dear listener, now that you've come to the end of Payback, you probably can't help but wonder, what becomes of Tom? Like, will he allow Irina to have the last word? Allow that dumb, uneducated bitch, that useless thing, to have the last word and live happily ever after? You see, in prison, the one thing that you have is plenty of time to think. Plenty of time to ponder your wrongs, then repent, become remorseful. Or you could use that time to plot revenge. Hey, we're talking Tom Buerta here, man extraordinaire. He's used to having the last word, remember? He always finds a way too. So if you want to find out about the drama that follows Payback, and if you just cannot wait for the audiobook, then you need to pop on over to Amazon and download the sequel to Payback. Yes, Payback is a standalone book, but there's a sequel. It's called One Way or Another. You will learn a lot more about Tom and just how charismatic he can be, how determined he can be. You will learn a lot about Bear too, and the lengths he will go to protect the love of his life, namely, Arena. The Amazon link to the book One Way or Another is listed below in this post. Go check it out if you want to know more. In fact, here is a small excerpt adapted for YouTube from One Way or Another. Dear Digital Diary, I've been neglecting you, I know, but forgive me, diary. So much has happened to me at work. OMG, you're never gonna believe it. Where do I start? Well, a few nights ago, I was paired with Mr. Dawes. He's like my, trainer buddy at Remington Correctional Services. He sucks at being a trainer buddy. The man's downright disrespectful and a bona fide racist, so of course I can't stand the jerk. And I believe the feeling is mutual because he treats me like shit. As for Remington, it's no secret, dear diary. I've told you time and time again. I wish someone would burn it to the ground. I hate it that much, dear diary. It's a hellhole. It really is. Dreary and cold, and the air is openly hostile. I feel the pain, the suffering, the ugliness of the place from the moment I enter the gates till the moment I leave the prison. When I walk into Remington, I've got to force myself to become, numb and stop feeling. You know what I'm saying? A robot. That's what I want to become whenever I'm at work. Working for Remington Correctional Services doesn't make you tough, dear diary. No, not at all. It just makes you careful. That's it, careful. I guess I'm not really cut out to be a correctional officer. And, I've been thinking I should have become a nurse because it's more me. I'm way too thin-skinned to be a correctional officer. A correctional officer guarding murderers and child molesters and rapists. I digress, dear diary. Sorry. Back to nasty Mr. Dawes. He and I worked the night shift together. After an hour, he left to do something important, which means he went to take a nap, okay? So I was left alone to guard prisoner Tom Boerter in the computer room while he did some work for Mr. Rogers, who is the head warden of Remington Correctional Services. Mr. Rogers is a former South African, so he and Tom, they get on really well and they speak Afrikaans all the time, so we never really know what they're talking about. They seem to be friends or friendly toward each other. I don't know what Tom Boerter was doing at the computer, but I had a strange feeling that it wasn't something legit. Especially when I see Mr. Rogers and Tom's with their heads together whispering. But me, I'm small fry, dear diary. So me, I just keep my mouth shut, blend into the walls, and that way keep my job. Anyway, as the hours go by, Tom Porter turns and asks me if I could uncuff his hands. Of course, I can't. So I say, sorry, I can't. It's against the rules. In a polite voice, he says, sure, I understand. Thank you for being kind about it. I was like taken aback because I was expecting him to get mad, call me names, tell me things about my mother I didn't know. You know, like most prisoners do when you deny them something. But Tom Porter, he gave me this lovely smile before he continued working. So polite, so very polite. It made me think, like, maybe I could have uncuffed him for just a little while. I mean, he was so polite and pleasant and respectful toward me. Respectful. Unlike the bastards around, they pick on me, on my weight. God, I hate them. The other day, one of the prisoners told me that I have the best camel toe he's ever seen. All the other prisoners, they started laughing at me and looking at my crotch. Even the other correctional officers, they started to laugh at me and look at my crotch. I was so embarrassed. I went into the office and slipped on a panty liner. But they continued laughing at me, like pointing at my crotch the entire day and laughing. My face, it burned with embarrassment, and eventually I went to the bathroom and I just sobbed. I did. So yeah, I hate Remington, and I wish someone would burn it to the goddamn ground. Anyway, I digress, dear diary. Once again, I digress. Back to the nice gentleman, Tom Porter, and his handcuffs. Now, his cuffs are the kind with, wide chains. Wide enough for him to use the computer keyboard with ease, but short enough to restrict his movements so that he's not a danger to me. Clearly, he's got privileges. While he works on the computer, I sit on the couch and guard him. Nothing to it, really. Boring, actually. And I get a little drowsy. Then, he takes a break, steps away from the computer screen. I'm alert. Just need to rest my eyes, he says. I nod. Then, we talk. Well, he talks and I listen because, dear diary, Tom Porter, he's funny and interesting and clever. And before I know it, my shift has ended. Time just flew. Tom Porter was like, man, he was genuinely interested in me and what I had to say, what my thoughts were. He wanted to know about me, my dreams, and what I wanted to do when I grew up. I laughed and told him I was 21 years old. He's around 42, I think, but he doesn't look or act old. Anyway, when I talked, he looked deep into my eyes, nodded, and really listened to me. I like that, dear diary. Men don't normally give a shit about how I feel. So when someone like him comes along, it's refreshing. It's good to know that there are men out there like him, caring, genuine men who listen when you talk without wanting to get into your pants. Anyway, Tom Porter is truly a fascinating man. He used to be a triathlete. That's right, dear diary. Tom Porter is a man, not a boy. Just putting it out there, okay? Anyway, the next evening, Mr. Rogers, yes, big cheese South African Mr. Rogers, called me into his office. I got scared. Have I done something wrong? But It turns out that I was worried for nothing because he wanted to know if I would consider working the night shift permanently. If I said yes, I would get an extra $325 per month night shift bonus. And I would automatically get a promotion to the night shifts to IC. That is second in charge with a whopping 20% increase in my pay, dearest diary. I was like, OMG, am I dreaming? And my job, brace yourself, dear diary, my job would be to guard Tom Buerta. That nice prisoner with the charming smile and cute dimples, him. How easy will that job be? But Rogers made it clear I was to keep my trap shut about everything. His exact words, everything. He scared the crap out of me with his deep voice and his heavy Afrikaans accent. And like when he looked at me with those icy blue eyes, his big jowls and his thin white lips, which looked like, someone took a grey pencil and simply drew them in on his face. I was scared, even though I'd done nothing wrong. Of course, I said yes. I would never think of saying no to Rogers. I mean, I don't believe saying no to him is an option anyway. Not if I want to keep my job. It's a good deal anyway. More money and a promotion in such a short space of time. I was thrilled. I really was. It's not like I have a husband or kids or a boyfriend that I need to be at home for at night. So yes, I am now on permanent night duty. I may be able to move out of my boarding house soon into my very own place, dear diary. May, because I still have to send money home to my mother in Indonesia, as you know. So, darling diary, I am now permanent guard to Tom Buerta at night. I have to be honest. Having to guard someone as handsome as Tom is like the cherry on top of the icing for me. The man is intriguing, very intriguing. He's intelligent, he's patient with me, he teaches me all the time, he corrects my English, helps me with pronunciation, explains big words. He's just so smart, dear diary. I told him he'd make a great teacher. He laughed and he says he adores my innocence. Adores? I've never been adored before, dear diary. He says it's refreshing that I'm eager to learn, unlike his ex-wife who belittled him all the time. Yeah. Anyway, I have to admit, I look forward to going to work these days. Remington is not as scary anymore. Tom says I brighten the place. He says that I'm like a 100-watt light bulb in a strictly 40-watt light bulb zone. Can you believe those words? How good is he with words? Anyway, I found myself telling him that I was the eldest of 7 children, a migrant battling to fit into Australian society, that I helped support my family back home. I found myself telling him things that I've never told anyone before. Yeah, I've crossed the line by telling him such personal stuff. But with Tom Buerta, it's like he has a way of getting you to reveal things about yourself, dear diary. And let's face it, I'm lonely, okay? And he's my friend. He really is, dear diary. Tom Buerta is my friend. So go easy on me, because life has been pure hell for me for the past couple of months. Tom Buerta makes life that bit easier. So yeah, I've crossed the line, but go easy on me because after meeting Tom Porter, I look forward to going to work. I mean, go ahead, burn down Remington Correctional Services, sure, but without Tom Porter in it, okay? Anyway, when I told Tom Porter all about myself and expressed concern that I was crossing a line by revealing such personal stuff and that I could lose my job, he assured me that my secrets were safe with him. Over and over again, he's assured me that I have nothing to worry about. And you know what, dear diary? I believe him because I trust Tom Porter. I really do. Anyway, I've got to run because I'm off to the hairdresser's. Gonna chop my hair into a bob and color it mahogany. Tom suggested that style. He said that style would make me look more sophisticated and that I would command more respect from my superiors and the prisoners. So off I go. Hearts and kisses to you, dear diary. Mwah. P.S. Tom is serving time for murder, but he says he's innocent, says he's been framed, says good guys like him finish last. You know what, dear diary? I believe him. Tom's... he's handsome and he's charismatic, and that winning smile of his... wow. He's way too nice, too decent, too pleasant, and kind to be a murderer. I mean, the man was so sympathetic about my struggles with my weight. He was kind enough to Google me the watercress soup diet to help me lose weight. Tom says that the actress Elizabeth Hurley, you know, the one who dated Hugh Grant, actor Hugh Grant, that is, well, she used it and shed all her baby weight in weeks. Tom, he knows stuff, he really does. He's just so smart and kind. A gentleman. So when he says he's being framed for murder, I've got to tell you, dear diary, I believe him. I really do. Over and out, dear diary. Mwah, mwah, mwah. This is the end of the excerpt from One Way or Another.